Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. Tonight, we sit down with newly appointed Prince George's County State's Attorney, Tara Jackson. What are her plans as she takes on the important responsibilities of advocating for justice in the county? And how will she engage with the new county leadership, the community, and law enforcement? Will she run for re-election beyond this appointment? I'll ask those questions and many more. Madam State's Attorney, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us.
Harold, thank you so much for having me.
Sure thing. First of all, congratulations on your appointment. What motivated you to take on this new role? And if you can share with me, what are your immediate priorities?
Well, again, thank you for having me. And what I'll say is that I've been in public service for quite a while now. I had the opportunity just recently to serve as the acting county executive for Prince George's. And prior to that, the chief administrative officer. So the person that is really responsible for all of the administrative operations of county government. So I love public service. I say that I'm returning home to my roots because I started off my legal career in 1996. So I'm aging myself there a bit, but started off my legal career in the state's attorney's office years ago. And I have served 2 stints in the state's attorney's office. I came back in 2010. After having left and gone into private practice for a little while, and ran the office for then state's attorney also Brooks. So motivated to return because I really do value the work of the state's attorney's office. I know the work of the state's attorney's office. I know how critical it is to Prince George's County, to the success of our county, and I can do the job. So I'm here.
Speaking of doing the job, since you brought this up, I was going to ask this question later, but since you brought this up, if I may, you are kind of a Swiss Army knife in that, if you get my meaning, but particularly over the past 4 years, you have done a lot under challenging or really difficult circumstances. Obviously, as you said, you were a line prosecutor, earlier, but then, CAO, Chief Administrative Officer, and that was during the pandemic, and then you came into the county executive's office as acting, and now you're here. What do you learn from being able to pivot like that in such a short period of time when it was necessary to do so?
Well, when you say, what have I learned? I think, you take it day by day. So it's my first day in the state's attorney's office as the state's attorney. And of course, it can seem overwhelming, lots to do, new people, new processes in place, but you can only do one thing at a time. And so my philosophy is you bring the team around the table. I'm a big collaborator, and I'm a big believer in lists. So I put together my to-do list, and I just deal with one issue at a time. It was the same as I think about it back in March of 2020 when COVID hit, right? And we had to get the government, the people out of the government quickly and figure out how to operate. We just had to deal with one issue at a time. And, after a few months, we found that we were doing it and that we were able to keep the government moving forward. So I think, having served in several different positions, in leadership positions, really gives me the the ability to say, to be resilient and to say that, we this is just like any other day almost,
Mhm.
and we just do what is before us. We make the decision that is right in front of us and we keep it moving.
One of the things also I wanted to talk about in the recent past of your public service before we even talk about what's ahead for you, arguably one of the most high profile, and when I say high profile, where the public had a chance to really see you in action when you during the snowstorm, where you had that impromptu press conference after the snowstorm, and there was the ice and everything. One of the things that really struck me about that press conference, and I rewatched it today because it's always when it has to do with you, that's the thing that I always think about. You did not obfuscate. You did not make any excuses about that. You said that the performance during that snowstorm by Public Works was not up to your expectations, and you didn't throw anybody under the bus, but you were really straightforward in saying that things did not go well. I would say when it comes to a lot of elected officials, public servants, that's a little rare. Sometimes they will make excuses or not appear, let me say appear, to tell it like it is. Can you drill down a little bit more about that day and how you may carry that, or will you carry that kind of posture into this new position?
I believe that true leaders take responsibility for the successes and the failures. And Look, that snowstorm for us was was more than we expected. The temperatures were frigid, and the team, the department, although they believed that they were prepared, they weren't as prepared as they needed to be. And I just think you be transparent. You just go out there and say, look, we missed the mark this time. We missed the mark. And we're going to do better. And I was so proud of the fact that we were able to come back and the next time around to do it better. We were much more prepared when the Department of Public Works came out than for the next snowstorm. I just think it's not, Harold. It benefits no one, certainly not the public, for leaders to make excuses. I want to be able to trust the people that I work with, and I want them to trust me. And trust is built when you say, "Look, I got it wrong. We made a mistake, but we're going to do it better." And I just that's really. Uh, I believe that I've patterned my leadership career after or by. I've built my leadership career on being responsive and honest and being a person of integrity.
Hmm.
It's the only way I know how to be.
Let's talk a little bit about this new position. I mean, you just got there this week. Obviously, you were familiar with the office, although things have changed since you were a line prosecutor. Um, but even with that said, this is you're filling a position that is essentially left because of the current county executive now being in that position. Are you going to run again? Do you want to do that?
You mean, am I going to run again? Because I've never run it for
Right.
anything.
Well, are you going to run? That's what I mean. Yes.
So,
Are you going to run?
am I going to run? I'll say this again. It's day one of being in this office. Lots of work to do. I've got, sort of my 30, 60, 90-day plan marked out. But I will tell you, I have always, again, loved this office. I think the work is good work. I think that I would enjoy continuing to lead the people in this office. So as I told someone the other day, I'm definitely not going to rule it out.
Okay. Okay. Every county state's attorney has always had something that they specifically focus on. And I'm talking about outside of the prosecution of those who violate the law. Do you have any special projects or things that you are interested in doing?
I think what people will tell you about me is that I like to get the basics right first. And
Okay.
so special projects are good, right? It's nice to have initiatives and programs, but I want to first make sure that this office runs the way it's supposed to run. Um, I want to make sure that we are responsive to the public, responsive to victims of crime, fair to people that are accused of crime. I want to make sure that we're timely so that people can move through the system efficiently and quickly. I want to make sure that my prosecutors are in court, like I said, on time, and we're holding people responsible for crimes that they commit. So, as I sit here today, no, I don't have any special initiatives. I am concerned. I'll tell you about the all the fraud that we see out there right now. A lot of
Mm.
fraud, especially as it relates to the our senior population. So I'm really concerned about that. But and I'm going to look for how we're handling those cases in the very near future. Look at how we're doing that. Look to maybe partner with some of our state partners around these fraud schemes. Um, but uh, really, Harold, I want to focus on the basics
Mhm.
initially and make sure that this office continues to run well or runs well, and that we are holding persons accountable for the harm that they do in our community.
Do you have a different style compared to uh, the former state's attorney, Brave Boy? How would you do things differently?
Well, I can't really speak to how she did things in the office because I wasn't here,
Hmm.
and so don't want to do that. But I'll just tell you, my style is one where I am fairly direct in terms of what my expectations are, at least for the people that I lead. I believe that I'm empathetic. Uh, and I believe that I am someone who is um, motivated to come alongside the line prosecutor to help them in the courtroom. Look, I don't mind trying a case. I'll come into the courtroom and assist in any way I can. Uh, but yeah, I think I have a collaborative style, but definitely direct when I need to be direct.
Hmm. Interesting. Looking forward to seeing how that moves forward as you grow into this office. Please stay with us. I do need to take a break, but don't forget, you can hear this and every edition of the Daily Drum Inside segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 and 96.3 HD2 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation with the new Prince George's County State's Attorney Tara Jackson. I did want to do some more kind of drilling down on your philosophy about where we are with criminal justice, not only in Prince George's County and in the state. Uh, as you are, certainly well aware, there is an issue regarding juvenile crime. The previous police chief was very critical about being hamstrung in dealing with juvenile crime. Can you just share your philosophy of moving forward, obviously operating within the law, but just what your thoughts are about addressing that in the county?
Yeah, I mean, look, our the success of our young people
And excuse me,
is
I think I may have said Tariq. I meant Malik Aziz, but please continue.
yes, no, the success of our young people it's important to me, and I will say by and large, most of our young people are doing the right thing, and I am thrilled really as I move around the county to see all of the good work that they're doing in and out of the schools. Um, but yeah, we have a few that are uh, initiating trouble throughout our community. And Harold, I just believe that again, accountability is what's best for even our young people. I think that it is loving to hold people accountable. I hold my child accountable, my 11-year-old son, and if I didn't, then in my mind, that I don't care about him if I just let him do whatever it is that he wants to do. So my philosophy in terms of our young people that get in trouble is that there needs to be some form of accountability. Now, what that looks like depends on the case, depends on the circumstances, depends on the history of that young person. But oftentimes, you have to pull the young person out of the community. I said it the other day, you have to put the young person in timeout for a while because either to protect the community or frankly, to protect the young person. Too often we find that we're actually saving a young person's life by getting them off of the streets, right? But in addition to that, I'd say that it would be my goal to work with the state to improve the services that are available to young folks. I think we don't have enough in the way of in-house services for our juveniles that we have to take off of the street. So that certainly would be a goal of mine because we don't want to make them better criminals by incarcerating them.
When you say better in-house services, you mean while they are
detained?
Yeah, such as, give me an example of what you think could be improved.
Well, again, it's gonna take me a minute to make sure that I'm really familiar with what we have, but certainly behavioral health services, drug treatment. There are there are individualized services I think that we can put in place for young people, so that to make sure that they don't reoffend.
Mm. Do you know the newly appointed police chief, George Nader, and if so, what kind of relationship do you have with him?
I have known Chief Nader for some time now. I don't know, probably more than 20 years. And he came from the Metro WMATA Police Department. Then I think went back, served for some time, maybe up to, I think he may have gone up to deputy chief actually in Prince George's County's police department. And then he went back over to WMATA after he retired from the county some years ago. But yes, I have a good relationship with Chief Nader. Looking forward to working with him.
What are your expectations in this position from the police department? Obviously, as you said, as CAO, you had a pretty good handle on county government operations. So have you had a chance to to think about, what your expectations would be from the police department.
Similar. I think that certainly when I was over in county government, the police department reported up to me.
Hmm.
And so that is not the case with me being in the state's attorney's office. But I believe in communication. So I expect that we will keep each other informed really daily in terms of what's going on out there in the county. Um, I expect that we will meet on a very regular basis regarding the major crimes that are going through our system. I expect that we will meet regarding improvements. There's one thing that I've noticed is that we probably need to work on making sure that all of our officers are informed on a timely basis about their court dates and are, in fact, showing up regularly for their court dates. So that's one of the things I want to talk to the chief about. But just regular communication is what I expect, and that's what I'll give to him, as
Now,
well as to the as well as to the county executive.
other than spending time on criminal juries, and of course a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, obviously covering um, criminal trials, not having a lot of experience on the other side of the court, thank God, knock on wood. But but you said something that struck me. What would cause a police officer not to be in court on time? I mean, that may be some inside baseball, but I'm just curious. Why wouldn't they know who is responsible for telling them? I know that their schedules change and the like, but how does that work?
I mean, well, that's just it. Notice. I mean, you have these IT systems, and when they work, and when they don't, right? So you've got to make sure that the officers are getting, and I'm not suggesting that it doesn't work, but I do believe that we can do better from what I've seen in terms of officers showing up to court all of the time. So
Mhm.
I think it's the technology. Frankly, I think these officers are working sometimes 10 and 12-hour shifts. So if you work a 12-hour shift and then you're expected to be in court, 2 hours after you get off of a 12-hour shift, that might be difficult for the officer. So maybe there's better coordination that can be had there, right, between the state's attorney's office and the police department, so that the commanders in the department can coordinate officer shifts around court dates.
Mm.
So I think that and sometimes it's not unusual for cases to be postponed and for assistant state's attorneys to decide that they don't need this particular officer to prove this case that's going to occur, despite the fact that that officer got notice. So it's just Harold, there's a lot of coordination, believe it or not,
Mhm.
around trying to make sure that you get the right officers to court on the right day with the right evidence.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people, your run-of-the-mill citizen who may happen to end up in court, really understands the machinations of that, and that's why I asked. One of the other questions that I was interested in getting your thoughts on was about community trust. Usually that kind of falls on the police, whether it's the chief or officers on the street. But what role do you believe your office needs to play in engendering community trust?
I think it's some of it we've talked about already. Uh, we need to be responsive to the residents, to any persons, frankly, that call our office and have questions about the status of cases, about what may or may not happen in court. In fact, I gathered the attorneys together this morning at 8 o'clock. And before they were all sworn in, I talked to them about the impact that they have on persons' lives. They see 50 individuals a day, maybe coming through the courthouse, individuals that are on their dockets, right? But for this individual, for this resident, this is a big deal coming to the courthouse. And it may be the only time that they've come into contact with a prosecutor, right, during the course of their lives. And it's scary for them oftentimes. So I need my prosecutors to be empathetic and responsive and willing to give out information, going the extra mile to make sure that the experience is one. I'm not going to say it's going to be a good experience for most that come to the courthouse, but one that is certainly not made worse by the contact or the communication that they have with the state's attorney's office. So I want the prosecutor really to understand the difference that they can make in the lives of the person that they're going to come into contact with on that particular day. So to your question about trust, I think it comes down to, how do I interact with that person on that day? And I think one interaction by one interaction is how we build trust with the community.
This may sound like the same question, but one of the things that kind of strikes me about prosecutors and the work that they do, and when I say the work, I'm talking about the amount of work. It's almost like social work these days. Social workers often complain about so many cases. So my first question is, do you have as many prosecutors as you need, or what might that look like? And if someone comes out of law school and they want to be a line prosecutor, what do you look for? What works for you and what doesn't work for you?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we don't have as many as we need. Again, I can say that even though it's only my first day.
Mm-hmm.
This is a busy county courthouse. And I think the second busiest in the state. And I'm not sure, we may be ahead of Baltimore City now, but certainly I can say with confidence that we don't have the number of prosecutors that we need. And the second part of the question was,
what does a prosecutor need to look like? And when I say, I don't mean physically, obviously, but
yes.
What do they need to bring to the table to be a good prosecutor? And is there something in your mind that is an absolute no when it comes to hiring prosecutors?
Well, years ago, I've interviewed a lot of persons over the years, and I certainly have hired a lot of prosecutors when I was in this office years ago. And I'll tell you, I think top of mind for me is decision-making, right? Can this person make a good decision? Because see, the prosecutor's job is so important because we have the discretion, right, in the prosecutor's office to determine whether or not someone is charged or not. The police officer's charged on the street, but we review those charges. So we have the discretion to determine whether or not to move forward with those charges. So I'm looking for people that have had life experiences or, even if they're young people, right? But that demonstrate that they make good decisions and decisions that are not based solely on really solely on any one criteria. I'm always a little bit skeptical of people who have always wanted to prosecute. I've always wanted to, put folks in jail. But that's not the job of a prosecutor, right? The job of a prosecutor is to achieve justice. Now, I'm not saying it's a great job. So I don't mean to say that I don't want people who have wanted this job, but they had to have wanted it for the right reason, right? To pursue justice, not just all about making sure folks go to jail, because that's not what we're about. I think decision making is a top priority, and it's important to have a group of diverse prosecutors, right? And that, frankly, that look different, that have had different experiences, come from different backgrounds, right? Because that's who we see in the courthouse. Those are the people that we come into contact with every day. And so, or that you've had experiences with people that look different from yourself. That's important to me coming into this role.
Which leads me to my next point about, for example, racial equity and understanding. You're a Black woman, like, and a Black person, like the past many county states attorneys. What are your thoughts on racial equity? And I'll give you even more context. As you may have heard, the governor yesterday issued cannabis pardons for those who possessed, marijuana. Recreational marijuana is legal in the state. Your thoughts about racial equity, and more specifically about the pardons, if you could.
Well, I think, no one can deny, if they've looked at the statistics, that Black persons have been disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system in Maryland, really at every stage of the process. And there are all kinds of reasons for that, I think. And a lead prosecutor like myself, definitely has to understand that those are the facts that we're dealing with, and be aware and make sure that the prosecutors that work for them are aware of the inherent biases that lead to those results. We all have them. But I think the first step, as I said, is to make sure that we are aware, and we're trying to guard against those biases as best as possible. A lot of it has to do with socioeconomics. You've got the person that comes in that has the money for a, as they say, paid lawyer, and a person that does not. And I happen to think very highly of the public defender's office, but there is many times, there's a difference if you pay, a boatload of money to have someone focus on your case alone, and that someone that represents you is familiar with the members in the justice system, right? Is familiar with the prosecutors, is familiar with the judges. There is likely to be, or there could be, a different result. And so I guess I would say that there's a balance, Harold, that has to be struck, because we still have to hold people accountable. We have to keep public safety at the forefront of our minds in this community. I want to make sure, along with the police department, that our residents feel safe. At the same time, I have to make sure that we are being fair and we're keeping due process, in mind, and that we are not treating certain persons differently than others, right? It's a reality, and it would be naive of me to say that it's not something that we need to always focus on.
Do you, as it relates to the governor's pardon for cannabis possession, your thoughts on that?
I believe in rehabilitation, and I think that we should give persons opportunities to succeed in this community. And if and I don't know, I'll confess, I don't know all the details about the pardons, but I believe the governor is trying to do the right thing as it relates to giving persons chances to succeed. They
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's better for the community as a whole. So we don't want to look. You do your time. You pay the price for your crime, and then I want you to get a job. I want you to be successful. I want you to be able to contribute.
Talk to me about your thoughts about support for victims of crime. Obviously, not only in this conversation, but in conversations in the town square, there was a lot of concern about being fed up with crime on the street, whatever it may be. And there may be this lock them up mentality, but often in all of the discussions about that, victims are either they are forgotten or they feel forgotten. What's your philosophy about addressing those who have been victims and how they can be supported?
Well, I think we talked about it earlier. Over the years, I've dealt with a lot of persons that have been victimized. And I know for myself, I've spent the necessary time with each victim to make sure that they were seen and they were heard and they understood the process, right? And that's something that I want to make sure that our prosecutors do. And kind of harkening back to your one of the area that you talked about in terms of racial equity. Most of our victims are Black as well.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we forget that, I think, and we need to make sure that we remember that oftentimes we as Black and brown people are hurting people that look like us in our community, right? And so, so I'm just as concerned. I'm certainly concerned, I should say, about the victims of crime, and want to make sure that their experience is one that is, and it can never be a good experience, but that it's something that, that doesn't add to their pain.
Final question for you. How will you measure success? And I don't think, obviously you've been a prosecutor before, so I think you have an idea of what success or failure looks like. But how will Tara Jackson as a leader want to measure success, whether it's data or something that may indeed be intangible?
I think it's both. I just talked to my leaders this morning and I said, we need to make sure we have data as soon as we can to know where we're starting from, so that 6 months later, I have an idea of, the direction in which we're moving. So certainly data is a piece of it. but it's the intangibles too. It is moving around the community and listening to people talk about their experience with our office. Frankly, their
Mm,
experience with the police department, their experience in the court systems. So it's those intangibles that mean a lot to me. Their experience with our prosecutors. For me, I'm always concerned about my employees.
mhm,
So I want to make sure that that they're getting as well what they need from the job. That they feel like they're part of a system that is, as simple as it may sound, that is doing a team that is whose goal is to do good for the community. I think teams rally together,
mhm.
and that it boosts morale. And so I'm interested in building that team and motivating that team. And then lastly, I think, Harold, when I look at myself, I have a strong faith in God, and it's just, Tara, did you do the best that you can do? You know, and did you provide excellent service to the people of this community? And did you do it with integrity? Did you make the right decision despite political pressure or whatever pressure may come? So, yeah, I would say the intangibles and the tangibles.
Well, Prince George's County State's Attorney Tara Jackson, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us in this wide-ranging discussion. You do obviously have your hands full, a lot on your plate, but I look forward to watching how the office moves going forward. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Have a
Sure
good
thing.
evening.
You too. That is the Daily Drum for this Friday, June 20th. For News Director Renee Nash, I'm Harold Fisher.